Good evening, everybody. Welcome back as ever to Building Blocks, where we program Minecraft mods live on camera, and things frequently go wrong in entertaining ways. But tonight we are going to be working on the whales a little bit more. Last time we managed to ensure that whales are specifically attached to specific stomachs, and those stomachs are able to find those whales under any circumstances. Yay for that. And this time around we're going to be working to more of the nitty-gritty, I guess, kind of details. So namely, our whales currently, when this line isn't commented out, when they rotate and hit you with their tail, they will send you flying. Like, there's a slight bug with Ravagers in vanilla, that if you hit them in just the right way, they will send you hurtling hundreds of blocks. More or less the same kind of thing happens with our whales right now, so we need to fix that. Ideally, in a way that allows you to actually walk on top of them, which would be really, really nice. So shulkers have an effect where when they're, like, in their forms and they lift their, like, heads up, you can still walk on top of them. It's nice. I like that detail. I'd love to see that with the whales. But, yeah, that's our first thing for tonight. Hopefully, we'll also get to the stage of being able to actually, like, saddle them and ride them around, that kind of thing, so you can relocate your whale base as such. Almost 100% completely keyed out succulent-saurs. Yes. It's a pity, but I love them nonetheless. Inari Miauchi, so big that I can't actually tilt the camera far enough to get them fully in frame. Oh well. So, let's just for sake of demonstration show you what happens if you try and walk into, like, just bump into a whale under ordinary circumstances right now. Because it's entertaining, even though it sometimes crashes the game entirely. Otherwise, how's everyone been today? Had a good week so far? Now, nearly your largest plush? Oh no, I have like Tutoro right over there, there's Snorlax downstairs, and then Long Yip by sheer verticality, certainly. Not my biggest plush, but they are very big. Stressed? Aww. Well, hopefully a few hours of coding will be sufficiently chill and such for you then, Dusty. Long Yip? I'm actually still trying to chase down Long Yip because apparently they've been in Shanghai since May. Which, alarmingly, isn't where they started. They got there and they've just been there since May, so try and chase them up. Taking a vacation. Got stopped at customs for fox crimes. I mean, Long Yan is large? Yeah, Long Yan is, like, really big. Like, most of the length of our bed kind of big. Okay. Here's the whales. And there is, in all of their glory, all of the hitboxes. So there's the primary one in white, and then there is the additional multi-body parts of them in green. And all of these apply collision, so if we bloop. Yeah. And that is the extreme case, if you fall on top of them. If you walk into them, though, it can be pretty severe as well. And, again, that happens when they turn, because when they turn and they rotate, all of their hitboxes move accordingly. So these hitboxes can move into you at velocity. And, then you get really hecked up, suffice it to say. Whale trampoline, yeah, little bit. It's, What I want to do is be able to actually walk on top of these. And also not get catapulted the second that I touch them, especially because they actually bounce me outside of the area necessary to access them. So that's what we're going to be working on tonight. Whale trampoline? We all live on a whale trampoline, a whale trampoline, a whale trampoline. Okay. So here's the code for shulkers. And we are just inside of the onUpdate function. And what's happening here is it is calculating its, like, extension, its peak. And, like, from there it's determining what its actual hitbox is, with its anti-bounding box. And from there it is applying it's applying motion to them. It works as does We All Live in a Yellow Star Destroyer. Oh, you want Inari to dab? Inari doesn't really have, like, sufficient limbs to dab, but I can try. Eh. They look more like they're doing a Zen type kind of pose. Okay, so where are these values? Are those destinations or volumes? Towards the specified location. Okay. Right. And D5 is D3 minus... boy, I wish these had actual names. They tried, yeah. It's an excuse to get you to pick up Inaria. Anyways, yeah, I mean... yeah. With their bells. I don't know how much the bells are coming across. Yeah. Okay, so... instead of the collide, we need to try and get them... well, instead of just this way, we need to try and get them instead to loop through and find all the entities in there and then move them to a position that is sufficiently out of that in ideally the same direction as they are towards the core of that part. I think. At least that's the start. We need to detect if somebody is actually in there. And let's also have a list of entities that we've already applied this to. Just so that we only do it for one. Why did the whale eat the sea temple? They wanted a light snack. I don't quite get that one. Alright. So we need to get all of the occupants that are inside of that's not the whale itself. And then from there, we need to determine their direction to the core of the bounding box. So we actually probably do need the axis line bounding box. Sea temples, sea lanterns. Oh, light. I see. Right. I am understanding what you are seeing now. Okay. So, if occupant instance of entity living base and not applied entities contains occupant, it spelled that correctly the first time around. Okay, so if that's the case, then we found something we can actually apply this to. So from there, we need to get the position of the occupant. So that'd be vec3d plus equals new vic. Can I just ask the occupant for this? Position vector. Okay. And we're also going to need the actual vec3d bounds core. So max x plus min x over 2. Little trick if you ever need to find the midpoint between two positions or two numbers, just add them together and halve them. Same function as an average, basically. Okay. So we know where they are, we know where the core of this thing is. So now we need to actually figure out a position that's outside of the core and try to move them there. While you take a break from pie making. Ooh. What you making? Okay, so that gets us our direction vector. And then we want to find the first position that's outside of us. Okay. That should mean that we eventually find a position in the same direction that is outside of the whale. Now I can already see some potential flaws in this, so this is going to get interesting. And let's just turn that off for a hot minute. Okay. Right. And this is in the on update parts, but that should also be in the on living update. Okay, right. Let's plonk this in the on update. Okay. Oh. Soup. Need to remember that. Alright. Well, let's give this a shot. Yeah, I can already see there is a problem with this. Let's see if we can figure out what it is together. So here's our whales, there's our boxes. Oh, that's new. Wow, I know what just happened, but wow. I did not expect that. Where's... Ah. Okay. So what just happened is that the move command in there, the little function for that, is basically a teleporter, and I'm guessing we gave it some directions that have... Oh boy, okay, test for at E. Can we find a whale? Yes, okay. TP at P to at E, type equals forward, whale C1. Yeah, that's gonna keep happening. Is it always the same place? Yes, it is. Okay, well I need to be at the whale. The whales are thankfully at, I can find... This is gonna be really weird, but okay. Need to remember this one goes. Damn, I was hoping that would actually tell me. Okay, a little bit more complicated. Should be relative to the... Yes, thanks, Meg. Okay. Heroin. Alright. So we managed to get back to our whales. Okay. So there's the coordinates, minus like that, of the whale. But it was teleporting us to like the 1800s. It was sending us through time to the 1800s. Okay. So yeah, that's a flaw. Destination should, yeah, that should work. It's not add vector. Okay, returns a new vector. Yes, good. And it should keep going until it finds that. Interesting. Hang on, have I got this back to front? There's a question. You get, let's see, A minus B is the direction vector from B to A. Am I remembering that correctly? Actually, it might just be also the position vector is wrong. Oh no, that's actually identical. That's exactly what we wanted. Okay. Is it the bounds core they're using that? Maybe use the position vector instead. So we add the direction to the position to find out the first part that's not inside the bounding box. Okay. Hot tub whale time machine. I mean, you can go in there and build a hot tub. I'm sure DecoCraft has something for that. But yeah, like this line right here is because we have a couple of bounding boxes that actually overlap, because if they were just the one, then they would be huge. And we need our whales to be long, not massive in all directions. I wonder if it is that, but, Destination equals that plus that, yes, good. It has to be done like this rather than just being destination.add, because it returns a new vector rather than modifying the existing one. I am adding the right thing, yes. Okay. 4-dimensional whales. God, imagine. This is a feature, by the way, of abstract whale, which means it applies to all kinds of whale, not just the living ones. The skeleton whales will also do this, which is maybe a little less sensible on the basis that the skeletons are skeletons. Reach inside your local whale to find a hot tub and a friend. Okay, let's see if this teleports us again. Or at the very least, let's see if this teleports us to somewhere a bit more sensible. And I'm just going to write down my coordinates here, just in case, to save me some time. Okay, from there to there. It's basically doubled my coordinates. That's interesting. Okay, let me see here. Yeah, it has basically doubled my coordinates. Almost exactly. That's interesting. In which case, it might actually be a force rather than a teleporter. Which is weird, because that's definitely a direction vector. So if we just do that, then it should only move us the amount we actually need. Undead whales? There aren't zombie whales just yet, but there is a handler for skeleton whales, which are classed as being undead and do not have an accessible stomach. That said, the whale dimension currently only uses one chunk of the vertical. It has access to the full 255, so in theory I could have different kinds of whale as like a tiered structure. So at one level, here's where all of the stomachs of the living whales are. Here at the level above that, here's the stomachs of all of the zombie whales, and those could have different generation. Oh, I didn't teleport back, did I? Whoops. Well, back to the execution. Okay, let's see what happens now. So we do still bounce, but it is drastically reduced. Like, you can see that. That's good. That's progress. We still can't walk on top of them, but at the very least, we don't actually get catapulted. Which is good. Okay. Still have to look a little bit more at the shulker code. to figure out how it's calculating the change. And it seems to halve it, as near as I can tell. D5 equals D3 minus D4. D3 being the previous peak amount and the current peak amount. Okay. And then D0 for D2 would seem to be selectors for which axis to apply it to. Okay, yeah, which comes to the thing that I originally saw as being a problem, which is that this motion is three-dimensional, and shulkers only do it in one axis, because of course shulkers are one axis. What we need to do then is determine the axis of greatest collision, I guess would be the phrase, or the axis of least collision, perhaps, and apply along that axis alone until our point is outside of the actual boundaries. So for right now, if you are above and slightly offset, you'll be catapulted in this direction, when in reality what we want is for you to just go upwards, for instance. Are there baby whales? There are not currently any ways to breed whales. Also, that would be a little strange, considering that some of those baby whales would spawn and immediately have debris inside of them. So, okay. Our direction vector, we need to determine which point we want to most be pushing on, and I think it's going to be the largest one that exists. So, if let's see, let's have some doubles. But you don't like being given three numbers. Ooh, and I need to actually normalize. I need to absolute these, because these could be negatives, and that would throw this off quite a bit. Maybe whale can only be accessed as an adult, just like other mobs can only, say, be milked or sheared as adults. Yes, but a baby whale that ages up into an adult whale would still instantaneously have shipwrecks inside of them. And that's a weird concept. Plus, I don't know that I necessarily like the idea of people breeding their houses. There's a weird situation going on there. I like them as more like an incidental thing. You find them in the wild and, like, domesticate them. You just like the idea of tiny whales. I mean, they'd still be the size of a sedan. Baby whales are still big creatures. Just not as big. Okay, we don't have to do the comparison down here, because by that point we can presume that that Z is going to be the axis, and he's going to be the max anyways. Okay, so direction equals new vec 3D. Direction dot x 0, 0. So if x is the biggest value of the three, then we push along the x. Otherwise, I push along that axis. Okay. Whale pods. Are we getting back into the into the biomechanical there? I guess my question is, the whales are fairly big. Like, adult whales are huge, even just by Minecraft standards. And generally speaking, whale pods tend to be like the dozens, kind of, in population. And Minecraft oceans are, at the absolute theoretical limit, only 255 meters deep. So, having like 12 or so whales in one position of the ocean will be extremely crowded. So I think they're probably just gonna have to stay fairly solitary. Anyways, let's see what that little tweak does for us. So now, instead of pushing along all axes simultaneously, they should only be pushing along one at a time. So if we come up here, we should just bounce upwards only. Whoop. Something happened there. But yep, instead of being shoved to a side eventually, we are actually seeing ourselves only being pushed in one direction. That being the biggest direction that gets us out of there. So that's good. Still got the juddering. Gonna be working on that. But that is progress. Yeah. Ocean full of whales, it's their ocean now. No whale gooka. Okay, we probably do actually need to separate these now. Okay, so what's the part of the calculation here that it's not that and it's not no clip? Gotcha. Should actually factor that in here. We can already see that this is a drastic improvement over our previous, so that's good. Let's see, sine wave, that times pi, yeah, that's just the going up and down part. The distance between the previous and the next, okay. Times 0.5. Why do I feel like the 0.5 is significant? Could just multiply this by half and see what happens. Trial and error, a frequent part of any game development. There's a point, there's no krill in Minecraft. There's only like 2 forms of life in the ocean for the most part. Guardians and squid. And I guess now, like, drowned, and also in various other seas, there's also, crabs. And also tropical fish as well. There's a lot more recently. But, like, which of these are the most plausible things for whales to eat?
Our struggle as artists isn't about appeasing the crowd. Rather, it's about tending to the broken parts inside of ourselves.
Yeah, why do we fall through eventually? That's my question.
To study our perception of self. That wave isn't necessarily
Like, I don't understand why we fall through.
rather it is a state of
It's like it's
mind
not
constantly
fully...
This all comes from an understanding
it's like it's not fully defeating our,
but fluid
fall velocity. Like, I can try and... yeah, it's like it gives up eventually. Easy way to describe it, I guess. Like... Why does that... How are we able to run into a whale like this? If all we have to be is persistent. Have whales eat guardians? Have I forgotten about fish? I don't intend to interact with the fish very much, honestly. They're there, but they're not, they're like noise. I like seagrass in that regard. It's like, they're there, I don't care unless they're eating up the mob caps sufficiently. So yeah, why does it just give up? It was giving up before. I don't think it's that line. Whales full of drowned, the dead crew of a swallowed ship. Yeah, that could be entertaining. Obviously, that's something that has to wait for like the 1.16 recode, but that could be cool. It's like you go into a whale and this one actually has like basically a dungeon. Like a really rare spawn or something. Maybe those whales have like a special texture as well. Maybe those whales look like pirates. Who knows? They just have like inconspicuously a hat and an eye patch. That's completely absurd, but the more I think about it, that'd be awesome. Okay, so it's not the volume that's making it stop. Let's see if it's whether or not we applied it. But yeah, if we can have castaways, like kobolds and such, then we should definitely be able to have, like, pirate crews. Okay, let's get ourselves a shulker here. Full comparison. Get you in Classic purple. So, yep, here is a shulker. We are standing on it. It is an entity. But we are not jittering around when we run into it. Granted, it's not a multi-part entity like this, which might be where some of the trouble is originating. And if this guy ever decides to wake up, then, hello? Let's go finish making right, okay. Oh, this is an actual shulker box, not a shulker. I should have realized that. I should have realized that. There we are. So yeah, this lifts us up. No worries the whole time. So there's clearly some distinction here. I mean, same diff, they're literally the same renderer. But yeah, this is the behavior that I want to impart upon our whales up there. So let's see if we can figure out where this results. Something else I need to do is turn off collision. Because these whales should be large enough that you can't nudge them around. Isn't shulker the noise used for mimics? Yeah, because it's perfect. It's the perfect noise for it. Okay. There's its AI. Anything else in here? Unupdated where it happens. Where it does all the stuff. Living update doesn't really do very much. So here is the meat of the problem, essentially. And most of this, what it's doing right now is it's just changing the orientation of the actual bounding box, because bounding boxes are different to the entity, but the position of the entity is always the same. If I've made that, that's a weird way of describing it, but yeah, that's just what's happening here. Shulkers are just mimics, but N-City Edition? I guess, yeah, pretty much. Yes, but. Okay, so we know it's not that part that's causing this to be weird. Something we could do. So let's see, occupant dot motion y equals 0d. But we might do that with the rest of them, see if that does anything for us. That's gonna be weird with how it'll work with mobs, it won't work so well with players. Yeah, why do the shulkers make that noise? Peekaboo, I guess, is the best way to describe it, I think. It's like, yeah, you can't get me. My attacks are the only things in the game that have pathfinding, yeah. It's that kind of noise, I think. But it sounds like something that would speak with a wave with like a flapping tongue and whatnot, so it's perfect for a shulker. It's perfect for a mimic. Hence my reuse of it. Mimics really should have their own noises, but it's good enough. It's really good. Interesting. You knocked me off that time. So we're not moving. At all. Could just try setting position, I guess. And we're still somehow able to actually collide with the whales, which is also not good. So I can just about nudge you around. Did I name the right function? Here's the question. No, I absolutely did. So that should be collision, I think. Actually, no, that should be all manner of entities. Anything but a player. Let's see, when entities collide, what is... the standard thing that's called for it? Just adds velocity. Okay. Anyways, instead of using a mover, let's actually try setting position. No, I did not forget that we made that relative coordinates. Okay, back in 10 minutes to see if that worked. Welcome back, everybody. So just before we left off there, we made a slight change here, which switches out the mover to the set position code, and this might make it work better. We'll see. Not dreadfully convinced, I have to say. But we have managed to downgrade our whales from tremendous, like, baseball stars. Like, not pitchers, star batters. I'm not a sports fan, don't sue me. From star batters down to, like, really low-grade bouncy castles. But there's still more work to be done. So essentially now, instead of adding velocity, we are just going to be teleporting, essentially. And does that give up after a while? Doesn't seem like it. Can we move around a bit? Right here by the nose is where one of the boxes is. Or if it's worth making a list. So we can just apply it to the one with the most. And we are still able to nudge them, which is not something we should be able to do. So there's clearly some more code going on with the shulkers than we previously estimated. The shulkers, it's fine. Need to make it more like shulkers. Let's see, map of entity to vec3d. Applied entities at this point is going to be completely irrelevant. Okay. So if it doesn't exist there, or this one's longer, I think. And then we put it there. Okay. So that should mean we still only apply one, but we apply the biggest of the ones. really weird doing this with multi-parts. We could just do it with the central whale body, I guess, initially. Does this get... No, that doesn't get called anywhere else. We probably don't need to care about that right now, really. Okay. Any shulker. Let's see, immune to fire, attachment position, rudder offset size, okay. All of that, can trigger walking. Let's see. There's gotta be something around here that tells the game that shulkers cannot be pushed around by players. And that's code that we need to have in the whale. And it might actually just be on the mover. Shulkers aren't no clip, because they can't go through blocks. They'll suffocate inside them. Not seeing anything that screams it. Body helper, what's that part about? Just a rendering thing by the looks of it. Anything else that calls that? Just the shulkers. Wonder why that's distinct. I wonder if that's just the change to it. Which case, using that is probably going to greatly affect how they swim, is my main concern there. Okay, so just as long as it's not actively trying to move, then it cannot be, essentially. Which means you can bump into it when it is swimming around, but only then. Because a single player who's like 1/30th the size of a whale being able to just like nudge them around doesn't make sense to me. bounding box. We are now unable to shift them. Good, okay. They are not moving in the slightest. So now we just need to figure out what's going on. There. So we're making the size there smaller, just so it's more in line. Like, you don't want to be bouncing like this. No. Okay, let's go back to the code and ask. Well, let's isolate this displacement purely to the actual whale's central bounding box. That's our start. So let's see what we want here. Okay, so just ignore the colliders, essentially. And just limit it to purely that. And see what kind of difference that makes, if it's only the actual central bounding box. So the goal here is that we should be able to walk on top of these guys very smoothly, without bouncing, essentially just like the shulkers, just like terrain. And that is now specific to that, but it's not functioning like the shulker just yet. So the shulker, when it's opening like that, it's applying velocity to us. So let's borrow a bit more code from the shulkers and see if we can have the same effect. So in this case, peak amount should pretty much always be equal to 1F. Oh boy. Like, with a creature this big, it should absolutely function basically like terrain. These things are bigger than giants. Depending on the axis you're looking at least. So currently, it now only pushes directly up. But let's see if that works for us. Apparently not even a little. Interesting. Even though we are ostensibly applying this in the exact same form. Ah, wait, no, we're halving it, that's why. This is before I find out that, like, shulkers have some very specific handling. That, like, there's handling for falling downwards that is specific to shulkers. And there isn't actually anything that'll apply to everything. Oof. That would be just Minecraft right there. That is exactly something that Minecraft would do. Hello to you too. Nope. Still feels like that's not being applied at all. Which might just be because we're a player. Players have some very weird handling. Let's see. Summon a sheep. Nope. Not working with the sheep easy with the sheepsies either. Okay. Don't know why it does that check. Like, if you just put this whole line right there, it would be identical. Okay, I do have the right value in there then. Now, how high does the value of peak amount go, I wonder? Peak amount is clamped at 1, as near as I can tell. Hey, Void. Sometimes life is just clipping for a whale. Yeah. It's not 10:30? It is absolutely 10:30. It's been a while since I've woken up at 10:30, but it certainly has happened. And again, it's 10:30 somewhere in the world. Didn't go to sleep until 3 PM? Why? Nope. Still just dropping all the way through. Interesting. Okay, so that's it setting its position. And here's all the handling for where it starts to actually deal with mobs. Like, this is the code right there that means that you're always on top of an open shulker. You don't fall into it. Okay, yes, D5 is the change. Just quickly looking for anything else that might interact with collision. Not really seeing anything. No attack targets, random peak time, armor. Wait, did it say peak time there? Peak amount, okay. So that's the 0 to 1. Okay, so that's not relevant. Body helper doesn't seem to be relevant either. Trouble is, that's basically always going to equal 0. Like, there's no chance this is anything but 0. So if I say that's at 0, then? Is that the problem, I wonder? Like, that's basically just saying how far out from the main block should I be. Didn't go to bed till like 8 and took a 4-hour nap. Oy. I have to say, I'm fairly certain I'm gonna have a late night tonight, because things happened on World of Madness, and I'm gonna have to rebuild from them. Oh boy. Which is also well, partially why there wasn't a World of Madness episode yesterday. Okay. Still falling straight through. Hello, sheep. How are you? Yep. He was a black sheep, too. Okay, so we're still not getting any kind of collision. We're getting that collision, but nothing unusual. So yeah, there's free values here that are only set according to certain faces, meaning they're directional. Maybe that's the problem. Lung destroys the World of Madness server ASMR? Oh no. Not even beginning to. Although that series does have some interesting plot points coming up. Okay, so the up value in here sets d1, which is the y motion, to negative d5. Mean difference, so let's hope that that's meaningful here. If there are these values above 1, then 1 or 0, it should be equal. So maybe if I just make it the other way around? Thing is, those still shouldn't cause... Yeah, they're velocities, so it's direction of speed, in which case, how is it stopping you? Like, just straight up dead, in place. Like, is there something specific to shulker motion, perhaps? Not that I'm seeing. It's not even referenced, okay. Was what happened the same reason that I was late Thursday? Thursday? What happened on Thursday? I don't remember. There's gotta be a way for us to just set the player to not be falling anymore there. Oh, that. No, very different thing. I'm baffled. I don't figure out what's going on here. It's like we're doing everything that the shulkers do. We're just not seeing the same results for some reason. Like, we're doing it in the same function, we're doing it in the same calculations. I still don't see anything. Entity Golem. Hang on. Could that be relevant? Nope, not in the slightest bit. Okay, worth checking. Yeah, I don't see really anything that makes their bounding box solid. I only see things that change where, like, that apply a velocity whilst it's moving. Because once it hits that peak and that bottom, then it's applying a 0 velocity. And I know it doesn't qualify as a block when it's stationary, at least I'm fairly certain it doesn't, because there's nothing in here even referencing a shulker box. Also, I feel like that's probably a decent measure of just how bad my memory can be. I forgot about that story entirely, bro. You don't understand any of this other than pretty rainbow words make whale do things. Fair. Ah. Now we're taking the same calculation. D5 is greater than 0, so when they're even, it still does nothing. Just make sure it's actually trying to move us at all. we can at least make it so that you can't actually fall into them. Like, that part we've got down, but I want you to actually be stationary in place above them. I want you to be able to walk around on top of them. Okay, it is attempting to move us. It's just failing utterly. But notice how that does not happen with the shulker. Why does that not happen with the shulker, but it does happen with our whale?
Player has joined the game.
Banderita, welcome. Okay. This is literally just the exact identical code, two shulkers, in the same exact function, doing the same exact things. Just only pushing in one direction. Actually, I wonder. There's a fort. When it says up, does it mean the top of the like, does it mean the top of the shulker is pointing up or the bottom of the shulker? Just do that, just to be on the safe side. So, entities within that do that. Okay. Okay. Right. It's very odd. We can get to the point where our different body parts of the whale are causing us to be repelled, but not to the point where they're stationary for some reason. Okay, thank you, Shulker, for demonstrating exactly what we're trying to do here. Well, it tried. That felt like it was trying. But that's also bouncing, so I think that's just regular collision. Whoa, that's a weird one. Okay, so that is just being pulled upwards. Okay. Right. That feels like something approximating progress. Whale ladder. Let the whales bounce. I mean, have you ever seen James and the Giant Peach? Essentially, whales are our peach. We're trying to be able to walk on them. On top of the whale is 4 creepers, and on top of the creepers is the overworld. Shocking if true. Still don't know why it does that. Just plonk that there. Don't need a list. You don't need a list variable now. Minecraft is indeed flat, so it could be true. It's flat, and after a point it is bounded. There is a limit to how far out you can go. Okay, let's give these proper names so we can actually understand what they are at a glance. Okay. Move the entity towards the specified location. Let's see, so if it's piston... Position X, position K. Very strange. Remember when you can see the end of Minecraft now, it won't give itself ends until dire straits? What's one of my favorite, like, pseudo-philosophical, like, poetic terms that I've ever heard was from, I think mostly the trailer. I can't recall if it was actually in the main game, but of Deus Ex Human Revolution. And it was, it's not the end of the world, but you can see it from here. This sort of ominous statement of things are not terrible, but they're about to get a lot worse, that sort of thing. But I guess in Minecraft, it's not the end of the world because that's out of render distance. But yeah, I loved that line, that one sentence. Oh, it was beautiful. It's not the end of the world because your render distance is too low. That moment your thermal lilies eat your bow. Oh dear. I wasn't aware bows could be smelted, but Okay, come on. Let's try and get this going. If we can get this going fairly soonish, we might actually be able to get onto settling. Okay, so we still fell through it, but... we're also definitely getting repelled. I really don't know why this works for the shulkers, but it's not working for the whales so far. Because they're near identical pieces of code right now. Whoop. Baba black sheep. Hast thou any wool? Did Deus Ex suffer the same issue that the Sherlock Holmes games did? No. The Sherlock Holmes games' problem was that they crashed a bunch. Deus Ex's problem was nobody was watching it. Because it turns out, playing a stealth game is a very quiet and time-consuming thing, and people don't actually tend to watch that much. Or at least back in the day, they didn't. Okay. So what's going on with this? I think we just go back to what we had before, pretty much. You definitely have that, I know that much. Add vector. Ah, that's why you named it something else. Yeah, stealth games are fun, but they're not necessarily compelling content, because you're frequently just watching somebody sit inside of a vent for several hours. A quarry full of water, what crimes will it commit? Massive lag, probably. Okay, so... Yeah, okay, right. Destination equals destination dot subtract position, which gets us just the velocities. Okay. So this should now function pretty much identically to what we had before. There are niches for every genre of game, yes, but I'm not big enough. I'm not nearly loud enough, as it were, to gain the attraction of people who watch stealth game players. Yell louder? No, because then I would blow the levels, and also your eardrums, probably. Okay, so this should have restored bounciness to all 6 sides of the whale. The sentences I get to say on this stream. Yep. So we can't shove them, and we can't walk into them. Or else we can't walk into that part of them. And I'm just gonna actually set their central hitbox to be slightly smaller, just so it's actually inside of these green ones, so that they're not applying different things at the same time. And then we swap that over to be applied from the actual parts. You know you're shooting the gun, but am I going to be putting a water spout on the top? Not currently, but that would be a nice little visual, like when they're chilling at the surface. level 21 technically counted as a stealth game? Technically. It was also incredibly niche and it got basically no attention. But I finished it because I had fun. Whereas the amount of like editing time and whatnot for Deus Ex was so long, it just wasn't worth it ultimately. Okay, be back in 10, everybody. Welcome back, everybody, to the final hour of building blocks for the evening, and we just did a little bit of code change, which should apply our current collision model to all parts of the whale. Again, sentences I get to say on this stream. And this is not going to be perfect, but we are trying to make it good enough. Hopefully. For at least the time being, this should be enough to, like, prevent us from wandering into the whale. It certainly seems to be doing that. Shouldn't be shooting us across like that. But it is preventing us from wandering into the whale. But not such that we can't actually, like, interact with them. So, there's that. But what we want is to be able to actually stand on top of them. We want to be able to just stand on top of the whale and just be perfectly in place. That's what we're hoping for. Actually, what's the... If we go to entity living base, there's a velocity that's applied in the downward direction, representing gravity. It's under entity for that matter. I should say, representing gravity for most things. It in fact differs, which is one of the most annoying things in the world. Gravity is relative to what kind of entity you are. More than is. Just listen to clear, maybe. Do the whales die on land? Currently, no. They just can't move on land because they're swimmers. So they can get beached, theoretically. Okay, living update. You are. Motion Y equals that. Nope, that's not right. There's a very specific value for this, and it's gonna bug me that I can't remember what it is. Give him his own gravity, let him be a planet. Gotta do more than hose them down. Don't think you can just plop a whale in a forest and just give them a spritz with a water mister and they'll be fine and dandy. I mean... that does sound like a very Minecraft kind of situation. Okay, we're just gonna guess. We're just gonna have to guess. For the moment, at the very least. Dig a hole in the volcano and put a whale in it. What does it accomplish? It looks pretty hecking rad. I think. I think that's the main thing to take away there. Don't you below me. Yeah, I'm not entirely certain why we get bounced off like that. That would seem to suggest there's more than one at work. Like, so help me, I want to be able to use a whale as a stepping stool, essentially. As is my right. Okay, let's bring that down back to using just back to applying to one entity per group of colliders. Or per run of the colliders, I guess. So for that, we need to go back to a map. There. So that means that only the most significant one gets applied. Why is the whale automatically a he? Strictly speaking, gender doesn't, well, all manner of gender aspects don't really tend to apply in Minecraft. They're cubes. It's hard to say. Have I asked nicely if I can stand on them? Also, I think I need more than a stepping stool to get onto this whale. I think I need a ladder for that. Trans whales. That's the point, actually. The kobolds are definitely gendered on the basis that they have, like, pride parades and such, so clearly they must have a much more complex concept of gender than any other Minecraft mob to date. Whales in the parade. Yeah, they're the float. See, you go into the ocean and you see 5 kobolds on a pride whale. Okay, well that's definitely doing a bit better, but we already knew that it wasn't going to be the end-all solution anyways. I will note that we're not falling through the whale, so that's good. So now it's just a matter of figuring out what our velocity here should be, what this value should be. Oh, I also might see why it's being funky. Okay. why it's shooting us off to the sides, because it's possibly saving those values differently. So per loop, it's actually getting a bunch of them. You know, it hasn't occurred to me exactly how this is going to function when two whales collide. Okay, we're gonna get shut off or just bounce? Shut off. Okay. Like, why do we get fired? That's my question. Is it because we're off center, I guess? But then that shouldn't be a problem either. I wonder if it's the magnitude. Like, I wonder if multiplying it like that is causing a problem. Wait, Hector. Oh, wait, no, I think I see what the problem is. It's because we're adding the original direction vector first, and then we're multiplying it with the changes, so it's always actually saying a slightly off kilter. That's what's happening there. Okay. That's why we're not bouncing, that's why we're getting shot. Off into the distance, I should hasten to say. Right, it's me being a numpty. As is per usual. So to summarize, what's happening here is when we are looping through all of the parts of the whale, determining determining any entities that are inside of the bounding area of those parts, and then we are determining the largest axis that you're offset from the core of the whale, or at least of that part, and using that as a determiner for which cardinal direction we should push you. Because our whales aren't spherical, they're cubic. So if you want to stand on them, you gotta be on the top. In which case, the whale should only be pushing you upwards, not away from the core. But the core is still playing a part. A whale with a gun. What crimes will they commit? Okay. So those green lines are all of the boxes that should be repelling us upwards now. That, for a moment, that was working. Yeah, there's the... That, yeah, that's... For a split moment... That works, and then for some reason it just stops. Like, we were actually there. We nearly had it, everybody. We're so close. There's just clearly some issues. Also, I probably need to turn off, I probably need to, reset your fall distance, because, all of the particles that spray out of me when I'm hitting the ground there, yeah, like that, that indicates you're hitting the ground at a high velocity, which probably means splat. So that's a thing I need to bear in mind. This technically will mean that if you land on a whale, that you will basically just not take falling damage, but you know. Don't think you're supposed to merge with the whale. Technically speaking, when you get eaten by the whale, you become one with the whale. Technically speaking. Does that reset the fall distance, perchance? No, it does not. Getting eaten is different than merging, but they do say you are what you eat. Okay, just leave that out for a second. That should basically just erase our full damage at the very least. What I don't know is why we randomly just drop. Why does it give up after a point? Like, if we can figure that out, then we can get this perfect. If we can figure out why it stops working, then we have it nailed. Now, there's a little bit of a bounce there, but by and large it's fine. Yep, there's the actual hitbox. Nope, we're still falling at dangerous speeds. Okay. Still shocked that I drink the tea with the teaspoon still in the cup. What is the shocking part, exactly? That I don't poke my eye out the whole time? Yeah, it really, really wants to shove me off there. Might be related to that part, I guess. Be concerned if you poke your eye out considering I'm wearing glasses. Fair point. Yeah. Although these aren't like prescription. I don't have to wear these all the time. They're just very good for when you're staring at programming code for hours on end. You have a little cup to keep. You have a cup for your teaspoon when you're already drinking out of a mug. That's weird to me. That seems needlessly redundant. Okay, so we're just taking out the force multiplier here. And it is now too weak to actually do anything. There is a definite motion change, though. And if I keep jumping, it eventually gets me. Okay. Might be a Geordie thing? Maybe. I don't know Geordies very well. So in theory, if we increase the velocity value, then we should end up with a value that actually, like, properly corresponds. which still wouldn't explain why shulkers don't have to do that. Like, there's a strange mystery here of why shulkers don't have to do half of what I'm doing. I only drink coffee, green tea, and Dr. Pepper. Is it gonna stop? I mean, we're bouncing. Oh, there we go. I think that was our bounding box actually colliding with the central bounding box. But despite the little bouncing, we are actually able to walk on our whale. Ish. Yeah, probably gonna have to dig into the code of the shulkers a little bit more. Try and figure out what exactly makes them so special. Do you remember the dance comp from months ago? Very vaguely. Is the bouncing slight clipping? No, the bouncing is not applying the exact same amount of velocity upwards as we are being given downwards because I couldn't find where the gravity value is. But if I can figure that part out, then I can fight gravity perfectly, and then we'll actually just be able to stand as though hovering upon our whale. Presuming, of course, that the whale's code doesn't just give up after a point. Like that. But when we actually get close to the middle here, what happens then is we actually do get bounced, because that's not happening because of the that's not happening as a result of the collision. That's the actual bounding box, the white outlined box in there. Because I have yet to figure out how to turn that off yet. But if we can figure out what exactly it is that makes shulkers as solid as an actual block, then I can hopefully apply that to these green outlined boxes, and that'll work perfectly fine. But as it is, I don't think I'm going to be able to fix that today. Because, as near as I can tell, there's actually not a lot to shulkers. There's only 903 lines. A substantial chunk of which is, for some reason, AI class. Let me see, from line 69.5, it is, just 300 lines of just AI. I don't know why that's there. It could be easily be anywhere else. Maybe I just figured they'd save some trouble. But then there's stuff for like setting your position, and a bunch for setting the armor, and all this stuff. But oh yes, this loading and unloading that's happening here is the whales updating the position. Or checking if the position is loaded, to be exact. Which I also need to figure out. But yeah, we should be seeing more stuff in here that explains what's going on, because it pretty much happens right here. That's it, as near as I can tell. And that only happens when it's moving. There was a thing about the bounding box. Collision border size. What does that do? Looks like that's just part of the renderer. Yeah. Near as I can tell, that's just part of the renderer. Because it's not even used in their AI code. It's not even used in anything. So it's not that. Drat. But yeah, there is something about shulkers that means that when they're firstly their collision is 100%. There's no nudging here. If I get that sheep back over here, we can demonstrate. So there's this sheep, and we can kind of actually intersect our boxes. But we cannot do that at all with the shulker. And that's what has me curious. Like, it's a little hard because the sheep is not cooperating, but we are able to actually intersect our boxes. And I don't know why it is that shulkers don't let us do that. We have no capacity. They are rigid like block, and we're trying to get that working for the whales. But as near as I can tell, there's nothing in the code that actually does that. It's very irritating. And there's nothing inside of Entity Golem. I don't think there's anything inside of Entity Creature either, or else that would also apply to the sheep. So, yeah, it's weird. It doesn't make any sense. So, consequently, that's about all I have for everybody tonight. I hope you've enjoyed, at least. And I'll keep digging into this, and hopefully I'll have a solution by, like, next week. And then we can just work on actually, like, properly taming and accessing your whales, as well as riding them, putting a saddle on them and riding them, so steering them where you want to go. But, yeah, that's all I have for this week. Tomorrow, well, I see, tomorrow, ostensibly at 7 PM, we have some more Dungeons and Dragon hats, and then on Thursday at 9, we have some more of our wonderful Monster Hunter World, where I might take on another Kieran. We'll see how that goes for me. And then at 9 on Friday, we have more Friday night with stream number 2 of Bioshock 2. And we should hopefully have some more Dungeons and Dragon hats at 7 on Sunday, followed by the carousel at 9. I'll be back for more of this at 9 on Tuesday. Otherwise, I do make videos on youtube.com/comic, and everything I do is powered by you over at Patreon at patreon.com/lying. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you all as ever next time.